something people sometimes say is that I know what the market is willing to pay. No, they don't.
Yeah. Do you really? How do you know that?
Welcome to Monday Mornings with Michelle, the new business podcast. Whether you're kicking off your day or kickstarting your business, Michelle is going to kick your ass into next week with the essential fours: strategy, systems, support, and state of mind. Now, welcome to center stage, Michelle Nedelec.
Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I am super glad that you're here with us today because I have my most amazing guest, Para. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, Michelle, it's always a pleasure, and I'm happy to be on the show.
Lovely. So give us a 5,000-foot view of who you are and what you love to do.
All right. Well, you see that I have a moniker, and the moniker is the Price Whisperer. This is not something that I invented or anything like that, but I was called the Price Whisperer so many times that I eventually decided to adopt the moniker. And if nothing else, it's easier to remember the Price Whisperer than my name, you know?
There you go.
So
that's awesome. So I'm assuming that you were in business consulting and whatnot before that, but what were you doing that granted you the moniker?
Well, so here's what happened. I'm originally from Sweden. I left many years ago, but I'm originally from Sweden, and I ran a couple of companies in Europe before I moved here, and once I came here to the States in the mid-90s, I've been running several companies too, and in all of those instances, we did experiments with pricing. Some of those experiments were very successful, like next quarter revenues are up 25%. Others were complete duds, and most of them were kind of inconclusive. And what I had learned in business school and could read about pricing and so forth was so academic and so theoretical that it was of no help for us to understand why some of those experiments worked and others didn't. So 14 years ago, when I decided I was too old and too opinionated to be a hired gun, I decided to set up my own shop and to develop a process that would make every pricing experiment a success. And that's what we do, and that's why I've been called the Price Whisperer.
Well, that's awesome. So are you particular to any industry, or is it across the board? It
is across the board. There's a couple of instances where it doesn't work. Our process is to go out and do, it's really online market research, but it's very different market research than you would get from a market research company. And then we developed our own AI software to crunch the data that we get from the marketplace. And because it's market research, in the end, there need to be a market to research.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, and you know, we had this. I had this conversation. I had to say no to this particular client, but they had a service they sold, but they sold it only to Fortune 500 companies and only to those that had offices in the Bay Area. And there's a whopping 132 of them.
I was going to say that's a pretty limited market.
That's right. So we said, no, we can't do it, you know. And the other,
well, I would think with an audience that small, you just go and ask them, would you not?
Yeah, I mean, you could, and we've done that with small audiences where you have, for example, we worked in the oil and gas industry, and there's about 600 drillers and pumpers. and we done work in that market, but that 600 is still really on the verge on being too small. So, but right. But apart from that, it sort of worked for. I mean, we've done stem cells, we've done shovels, we've done insurance services, fee structure. We've done discount cards. You know, you sign up as a member and you get a discount card. Just lately, one company, it's one of these membership organizations We took them from roughly 15 million a year to 35 million a year in 6 weeks.
What?
Another company, a little bigger company, selling a consumer product, we took them from 200 million to 250 million in 3 weeks.
Nice.
Only because, and this is on this with the same cost base. And this is just because they had used a pricing strategy that was completely wrong. So you fix the pricing strategy and your company goes to the next level.
Well, I often wondered how somebody like the guys that invented Pong, you know, the little paper chips that kids went absolutely AWOL over once upon a time. Like, how do you decide something that's completely and totally brand new, what kind of pricing you're going to have for that? Would they come to somebody like you, or is that just, I don't know, throw something at the wall, see how many kids buy it and go from there?
98% is throwing something on the wall. And the 2% that doesn't end up as market leaders.
Nice.
You know, so and I'll tell you a story here. This is a company we never worked for, but we should have. SaaS company. They have a contract management service, and the CEO he said, I decided the price is going to be $165 per user per month, right? And then he said, but I don't know. Maybe it should have been 99. Maybe it should have been 499. I don't know. But 165 felt right for me. And I can guarantee that he's leaving enormous amount of money on the table. And I mean, the audience here for this show, I mean, these are people who really need and want to understand that whatever they do, they don't leave money on the table.
Right.
Why should you? Why should you leave money on the table?
Absolutely, you should not. No. So I'm fascinated with the conversation because I know in the online coaching world, often people will pick a number that they feel good with. And it's like, well, one, that's not going to sell. And two, if you're going to charge that much, you may as well charge twice as more, because that's kind of how people base the pricing. And a lot of people just kind of don't know what they don't know. So let's kind of back up the bus a little bit first before we go into your process and how you deal with it. What do you think is some of the biggest mistakes business owners make when they're trying to figure out the pricing?
Well, first of all, many business owners don't understand that pricing is the lever that have the highest impact on profitability, right? And I know this for a fact because we did a study of I think it was 516 or something like that, American CEOs. So it's statistically significant. And what we found, and we asked them, any company only gets profits from three variables, eh? It's the total cost of the operation, it's the sales volume of whatever you sell, and it's the price of whatever you sell, right? And as long as the
where else they think their prices or where their profits come from, I don't know.
So we asked these statistically significant number of CEOs, which of these three affects profitability the most? And 82% said sales volume.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, but that's, come on, because that comes back to, hey, what's your profitability? Oh, it's minus $1 on everything we sell. So, we make up for it in volume.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, everybody knows it's not going to work. So what?
And it's like they don't realize you sell more, your cost goes up, right?
Right.
And the fact is, for the average company, a 1% increase in price generates an 11.3% increase in profitability.
Wow.
This is for the average company. Some are more, some are less. And we've actually gone over, we've studied public companies that we don't know anything about more than we have access to their public information. And typically that range fall within 7-8% to 20-22%. A 1% increase in price or 1% decrease in rebates, in discounts.
Wow.
And I have I have something that I call the 1% challenge. And the challenge is very simple. Have you ever failed to change anything 1%? Of course
Right?
not. You know? So if you're a company and you understand the relationship, and I actually have that people can download from the website a little Excel calculator where you put your total cost, your total revenue, and then you can change your prices up and down, a percent here and percent there. But the point is that once you start working proactively with pricing, you're not going to change it 1%. You're going to change it 5% or 10%. And then suddenly you're going to double your profits, maybe.
Well, yeah, and people don't realize that you could, add on 1% and double your profits immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
They haven't counted for their margin.
Yeah.
And it kind of boggles my mind that so many companies out there don't take into account what their margin is. And they don't know. And it's like, well, and when we build, and we're just going to go from where we are to 10xing it. And it's like, okay, so how much are your expenses going to go up? Yeah. Well, but 10x, you and it's like, no, you're not.
I mean, you asked me the question, what is the main mistakes people do when they price? First, the most common mistake is to try to find the price of a competitor and price the same way, right?
Yep.
And find that may be working if that competitor has prices on their website, but it also doesn't account for your differentiators. Mm-hmm. And if you're the same old as your competitors, or then you're in the commodity market, and it's a race to the bottom.
Yep.
Who wants to be in a race to the bottom? Nobody, right? The other very common mistake is to price based on cost. And of course, your costs have nothing to do with the value your product or service delivers, right?
Just look at pop in a restaurant.
That's right. And there's an interesting thing when it comes to cost-based pricing that very few people think about. And I'm going to tell you this, and you're going to understand this, and I'm sure the audience is going to love this. So let's say that you do cost-based pricing. Let's say your cost for this widget is $50, and you double it, so your price is going to be 100. And then for whatever reason, you manage to lower the cost to $40, right? Means that your price is going to be 80, right? Yep. Okay.
Don't lower the price. No, when you lower expenses, you don't lower the price. Well, you could have a sale on it.
So what you have done here is that your dollar margin, your percent margin is the same, but your dollar margin has gone down from $50 to $40. It's gone down with 20%.
Why would you do that?
And folks that do cost-based pricing doesn't think in this way, And again, lower your cost, but let your price stay where you were,
Well, and I assume most people that do that are looking to their accountant to go, how much do we price this? Which I personally think is a terrible question to ask somebody who, like, I love accountants. They're fabulous and wonderful, but their job is to keep you safe and secure and, away from audits, which is kind of weird too.
Yeah.
As opposed to a visionary in charge of the company who's supposed to go out and go, hey, what does the market need? How do we provide it? And what value do you have? Which are two totally different questions.
Absolutely. And the third biggest mistake when it comes to pricing is like that story of the CEO. Just find the price from gut feel or guesses or something people sometimes say is that I know what the market is willing to pay. No, they don't.
Do you really? How do you know that?
I mean, you can have a hunch. I mean, that let's, for example, I don't know if you hear it, but I hear the neighbor's lawnmower.
Nope.
I know that a lawnmower is somewhere more than $100 and somewhere less than $1,000 for a regular lawnmower. Where in that space, I have no idea. because it's not something that I've ever bought ever in my life.
Well, yeah. And you look at an oddity, we were looking at vacuum cleaners. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, when did vacuums become like $1,000 commodity?
Yeah.
Like Dyson reinvented a whole new market, and it had nothing to do with what their competitors were charging or anybody.
Dyson has written an autobiography. You should read that, and the audience should read that, because it's really very interesting.
Nice.
And specifically how he used pricing to deliver a message of value and a message of differentiation, and how he come out. It's a UK company. Actually, now it's not a UK company. I think he moved the whole company down to Singapore. He started off as a UK company, and at a price that was 4 times the price of a other regular vacuum cleaner, he became the best seller in the UK.
Right.
Okay. But it's fascinating to read his story on how he sort of came up with these ideas and how he then took it into a product, and how he for years tried to sell it. His first market was Japan, because he couldn't sell it anywhere else.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wild. So let's go into how you work with people now, because
Sure.
you had me at they doubled their revenue in 3 months. How do you do that without losing half your client base, which is fine on one side, but on the other side, it's like, how do you then garner that many in 3 months?
So I mentioned that when I was too old and too opinionated, I developed a process that would make every pricing experiment a success, right?
Yep.
And it's based on this very different kind of market research, online market research we do. Now, that means that the company doesn't need to provide any data. We provide the data, right? We create the data. And it's data that is what folks in the marketplace are willing to pay for a product or a service. Mm-hmm. Now, once we have that willingness to pay, we turn that into a prediction of sales volume and revenue at different prices. So we can say, here's your price today. If you change it, your new revenue and your new sales volume is going to be this, right? But then we take that and we segment it. So what does that mean then? Well, it means that we can identify the various customer segments and how they differ in the resulting revenue that they will generate. So our clients can focus on the most desirable customer segment, whether that's a B2B or a B2C customer segments, meaning that we know where these people want to it's a persona development, if you like, So we get to know what kind of marketing messages do they want, what kind of marketing channels do they want to hear, how should the sales, what channels do they want to use, what do they want to buy, and all that. So we can tell our clients, focus on this particular customer segment, and it's going to give you at prices that are going to be that is going to give you X higher, revenues, and sales volume. And then we do the same thing with product features and functions. So we can tell our clients, if you focus on these feature, functions, and benefit, you're in your promotion, your marketing is going to be more effective because it's going to drive a higher sales volume. Mm-hmm. And if it's feature, functions, and benefit you haven't developed yet, we can tell you which one is going to drive the highest revenue. So it informs your product or service strategy. And then the same thing with marketing. We tell, these are the marketing channels that will lead to the highest revenue. These are the marketing messages that would lead to the highest revenue. And then everything about, and that includes things like brand name and product names, and we can do even logos, and stuff like that. And then from the sales point of view, what sales channels are most effective in driving sales, where you have the minimum friction, where you have what will generate the maximum revenue. And then, of course, the pricing strategy that minimize friction and maximize sales volume and revenue. So it becomes a whole go-to-market strategy for any company who wants to take itself to the next level. And it works.
Nice. We like works. Works is good. So what kind of businesses do you serve and support most? Or better question, who do you absolutely love to serve and support, if your answer to the previous question is anybody?
No, our typical client is a small to mid-market company that and what I'm saying with that is sort of our range is about 5 million to 150 million in terms of revenue. They are chartered either by their current owner or a new owner or an investor to take the company to the next level, right?
Nice.
And who wouldn't want to take a company to the next level,
right?
You know, it could. We do slightly more services than we do products. We do slightly more B2B than we do B2C. And apart from the restrictions that I mentioned to you early on, it could be virtually any industry, any kind of product, you know. Having said that, I mean, I like to think of myself as somebody with ethics, okay? And a few years back, we were asked by a company, a medical device company, to do some work on a device that would help people survive heart attacks, right? I can't remember what the device was now. But they wanted us to maximize revenue at a low sales volume. And I said no, because I want this device to be in every hospital everywhere to save as many lives as possible. For us, it's not about maximizing revenue, it's about maximizing sales. But the company was not interested in that. So we said, forget it.
Was that a supply issue, or because I mean,
no,
just playing the devil's advocate, I can see that somebody like us, so we do digital tech marketing for companies. We don't necessarily want the most amount of volume coming through because it takes a lot of energy to be able to kind of understand somebody's business and to help them be as effective as possible in their endeavors. And if we have kind of too many, it sounds ironic, but we'd have to hire a whole lot of people, which means then a whole lot of training, which means then the ups and downs of growth, though that particular growth becomes kind of a painful way to do it.
You're absolutely right. I got an unsolicited email from a client a couple of weeks ago. And it was very simple. It was a screenshot from, I guess, their accounting system, and the screenshot said that sales volume was down with about 12% or something like that. Margin was up with 42.9%.
Nice.
Right? And the text said, the message that he sent was, "I just love this. Less work, more money."
Nice.
You know,
yes, we like those stories.
Was exactly what you said. You know, so yeah, it's all about, at least in my mind, it's all about revenue.
Very cool. So what is the process that you go take somebody through?
Okay,
they go, hey, we want to work with you. What happens?
Yeah, when somebody wants to work with us, the first thing we do is we create a research design. Now that is that's the instrument that we use in the kind of market research we do, and we do sneaky things. We do really sneaky things to disqualify people, because you really want to make sure that you talk to the right people, right? And often we end up disqualify between 2/3 and 90% of people who start a survey. And this is after we have targeted people, right?
Yeah.
And we can target them pretty accurately. And so we really want to make sure that we talk to the right people. And in the research design, we also set a quota. I mean, how many people do we have in a survey? And typically, the minimum we want to go for is about 400, because that gives us statistical significance. More is always better, you know. And we often end up doing between 800 to 1,000 people, unless it's a very niche market. And then we feed that data into the AI software that we have developed, and from that we get these various predictions of sales volume and revenue at different prices. And we also get the whole segmentation piece, you know, by customer, you know, by our clients' customer profile and marketing messages and sales methodologies and messages and so on and so forth, you know, and of course, a stratified pricing strategy. But this is data. So then I have business people working with me that look at that data and make human sense out of it. So I said that we use AI squared. We have artificial intelligence, and then we have actual intelligence. You know, and then we present this to our clients, and there's always a slew of very, very specific recommendations. You know, not only use this pricing strategy, but it's also focus on this particular customer segment that we define, use these marketing channels with these messages, use these sales channels with these sales methodologies, and here is the pricing strategy that minimize friction and maximize sales.
Nice. Now, I'm assuming that it's not just based on what they say they would spend, because clearly when people are in enough pain, they spend a lot more than when they're not.
Well, it is in this survey, we have a whole series of questions where we ask people to match value with price, right? So it's not, you can't ask somebody what are you willing to pay? That's that's going to give you wrong data, you know. But when you ask people about matching value, how do they perceive the value of a product or service that we describe in detail, you know? And that could be something new or could be something already existing, you know. And we're currently on project 738, I believe. Nice. And all but 2 of our clients are willing to be references. So this really works, you know. And these are, you know, these are from pre-revenue startups to Fortune 500s.
Very cool. So are you mixing some of the, you know, the Dyson, Tesla, it's hard to say those 2 words together, magic sauce into this whole elixir of, you know, what if you make yourself unique?
Well, there is an academic background to this called behavioral economics. So we are standing on the shoulders of 3 Nobel Prize winners, right? And they and it's all about understanding the psychology of decision making, especially purchase decision making, and that's what we do. That's why creating those research design is really an art. You really need to know what you're doing, because otherwise it's not going to work. It's you know, it's not, I mean, I invented it, this process, but again, there's some solid foundation for why it really works.
Nice. Love it. So does it work better for products than services, or does it work for both?
It's the same, you know, it's the same. I mean, I have a masterclass on pricing on our website, you know,
Very
for anybody
cool.
who wants to learn everything there is to know about pricing. And in a couple of weeks, I'm publishing a book called, oddly enough, The Price Whisper. You know,
Excellent. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the book. What's in it? What do we learn? All that kind of fun
well,
jazz.
it's the book is it's pricing 360, if you like. It's the title is The Price Whisper, and the subtitle is a holistic approach to pricing power. And pricing power is this thing that was really, it was defined by Warren Buffett. He said at one point that his most important criterion for investing in a company is whether the company has pricing power. And then he continued to define it, and he said, pricing power is the ability to increase pricing without losing sales volume. And the book is all about that. It's the process, how you do it. It's the data that you need. It's full of anecdotes about actual cases. And it covers everything a company needs to know in terms of using pricing that does have the highest lever on profitability, using pricing to take a company to the next level. That's
absolutely. Nice. So let me ask you this, because as you know, we're an IT company. Well, we do the tech done for you marketing. So a company that needs their marketing, we do the tech. And we're looking at our pricing and our packaging in particular, because up until now we've said silly things, so that I don't do this, people. You know, we can do anything. It's just a matter of how much you want to pay for it. So of course, a business goes, well, I don't really want to pay anything for it, but I want, champagne breakfast and the whole 9 yards. So it's a really silly way to go about doing the sales of it. When you're working with somebody like us, that's kind of lost when it comes to the whole packaging and the pricing and things, I assume that you would take us through a whole process of, you know, what does the market want, who's doing it, or would you go out to the market first? And
no. We start off by defining all the services that you have or could have that you may or may not sell. And we've done we have a couple of customers in that space, and then understanding how you can understanding how each of these services affects the individual services, affects what folks are willing to pay for your services. But then we take that to, and then again, another step, because we then can look at how these bundles together. And often what we find is that we're looking at the marketplace, and so you have, I don't know, a dozen different services, say, or two different services, two dozen services, whatever it happened to be. And then we can see that they typically fall into categories naturally by the marketplace. So somebody who says, I want service A, also wants service D and service F, right? So we create a bundle for that. And then we can define exactly the price for that bundle.
Very cool. So I'm assuming in the book, you go through kind of part of that process. And then if people are still dazed and confused, they can get a hold of you.
they can get a hold of me. Yeah, obviously they can, you know, and
cool.
And the it's, you know, if you follow the process in the book, whether you use my services or somebody else's, or you develop this yourself, it works every time.
Very cool.
Works every time.
Nice. I love that. So again, the book is The Price Whisperer.
It's called The Price Whisperer. Yeah. It's going to be published in early June. So
June of 2022.
Yeah, 2022. Awesome. And I've been told that it's a tremendous read by the people who read it. So
Well, you haven't read it 17 times yourself already?
Oh, I've read it so so many times, but it certainly has been. I've had some very prominent people quoting some very nice things after reading the book. So
nice. Any you want to share with us?
Well, a couple of CMOs of Fortune 50 companies.
Very nice. So peeps, you're going to have to get your hands on the book to find out who.
Yeah, you're going to find out. That's right. All right, Michelle. Thank you so much.
So what are some of the stumbling blocks that somebody would have right now that they're thinking, oh my God, Para, I need you so badly?
I think the biggest stumbling block that companies have is that they're not used to services like mine. Mm-hmm. You know, the companies are used to buying all different kinds of services from various service providers. You know, you mentioned accounting. You know, people know exactly what an accounting service is, but they don't really know what the stuff we do. You know, and I think and one of the things that comes through in this behavioral economics that I mentioned is that a purchaser sees the risk of making a purchase as 2.25% higher risk than the benefit of that purchase, right? Mm-hmm. So the stumbling block for is that they don't buy the kind of stuff we do every day, so it's an unknown, right?
Right. Well, very cool.
But it is, you know.
Right. So I know that our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start their journey with you?
Well, they can always email me on thepricewhisper.me. That's a good one. Pricewhisper.me also redirects to our website, or you can go directly to our website, which is my last name, Sjöfors.com. But I know that's hard to spell for me.
And it's SJOFORS for those of you who want to know. And you can hit rewind and do it again if you want to get it.
SJOFORS.com. Yeah.
Awesome.
But the Price Whisper is easier.
Yes. So. I would assume so. That was awesome. So I have to ask you, at what point in life did you know that you were special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's an interesting question. What really happened was that I have an engineering and an MBA in the back, and I was working as an engineer, and I was working for a small company in my native Sweden, and my boss, the owner of the company, wanted me to go into sales, and he was trying for at least a year, maybe a year and a half, to get me into sales. And I said, no, I shouldn't be in sales. But eventually he convinced me that we should set up a new company. I wanted to move out of Sweden for various reasons. So we set up a new company in Switzerland, and he put me as CEO of that company. He funded it, and we developed a business over Europe. I had customers in every European country. Small. I mean, I think it took us 3 years or something like that, 3.5 years to get up to 6 million in revenue.
Wow! Congratulations.
But it taught me one thing. And that is that I never, ever want to have a boss again.
Right. Even as CEO, you still had a boss.
Yeah, well, you still have, you even as a CEO, you're not completely out of bosses. But, and that sort of, that started my journey. But, then when I said it 14 years ago when I got into pricing, I said I was too old and too opinionated to have any boss of any kind, and that has actually proven to be correct, because I've historically I've had some partners in the business, and it just doesn't work. unless I'm leading the whole thing according to my own mind, I get very uncomfortable. So.
Awesome. Well, from one, stubborn entrepreneur to another, I totally appreciate where you come from.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And may I ask you, what was one of the funniest mistakes or faux pas that happened in your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, no, that's an interesting. Well, I came here to the States to join a company that we were in the hard disk drive business, and I set up a new division. I was successful with that, built it up to about 72 million in 2 years, and but then the company around me died. All right, so my division was fine. But the company around me died, and I'm not going to go into exactly what happened, but I think I was in Japan at the time, and I got a call in the middle of the night, Japanese time, and somebody from headquarters had called me and said, everybody's gone. The board cleaned house, and it's only you and the CFO left on the management team.
Oh my God.
So that's one thing. And because the company was dying around me, I was working on selling my division to another company.
Yeah.
Right? A large, a Fortune 50 company. and we had everything done. The only thing that was missing was the signature of the CEO. All the contracts was negotiated, and then of course the CEO of that Fortune 50 get booted out.
Oh, that would hurt.
That hurt, and the new CEO said, stop all acquisitions for 3 months until I reviewed them. So anyway.
Did you eventually sell it?
No.
Oh man,
with the rest of the
sad.
company dying, it wasn't feasible to continue operation.
Oh, that hurts.
So
that's painful.
So that's a couple of interesting experiences from.
Well, I'm delighted that you made it through there. However, it happened. I'm sure you had quite the adventure.
Well, you learn. Right. That's I had another one that's kind of funny. I was acting. I was a consultant, but I was acting CMO for a company also in the hard disk space, and as a CMO, I didn't get the budget I wanted at all. I got like from the CEO, I got like a quarter of the budget that I wanted, so that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this conversation where, in the same conversation, he fired me and I resigned.
So like rock, paper, scissors, whoever gets there first.
Yeah, whatever, and first time in my life I ever got fired, or resigned, whatever side you want to look at it,
Right.
But that was an interesting experience too, He said, this doesn't work. No, I said, this doesn't work.
Right. Well, don't feel bad. My sister fired me, so
All right.
Wow. I can empathize with your pain. Yeah. That's awesome. Barrett, you have been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for your time. I know how valuable it is. Any last words for our peeps?
Let me quote what's his name? Andreessen, the guy who started Netscape way back when, and now one of the most prominent VCs up in the valley. He was asked a couple of years ago about, somebody asked him, what is the best and most important advice you can give, Mark Andreessen, that's his name, to a startup company? And his advice was very, very on point. He said, increase your prices.
Right. I love that. You may as well have just said, go talk to Per.
Yeah, he could have said that too, but I don't think he knows me.
Oh, well,
So,
he will.
He may. But that was his advice. And that is my advice too. Increase your prices. Look at profitability, not sales volume.
Sage advice. And especially when your market's more than willing to pay.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you take advantage of that?
And it often is. Almost often, I think in 80% of our cases, we find that people are underpriced.
Awesome. Well, sage advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Please be sure to subscribe to the show. And if you're looking to scale and automate your business, reach out to me at michelle@awarenessstrategies.com or connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to our show. I'm all about being a resource center for entrepreneurs to give them the information and the support that they need to make it in business. As such, the notes for this show can be found at our website at awarenessstrategies.com/blog. Be sure to subscribe, give us a rating. I like 5 stars personally, and share with your friends.